Okay, so you're calling people to attention.
Hi, hello, everyone.
When do you start live streaming?
We're going to start now. Hi, good evening. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Power of Social Purpose Leading to Crisis and Change in the Center for Social Innovation in Toronto. My name is Ariana. I'm Director of Social Purpose, Impact and Culture at MCIS Language Solutions. And we are delighted to welcome today so many diverse participants who are exploring the transformative power of social purpose together. And we also have here in the first row a group of stellar social purpose trailblazers who will be introduced in a moment. I would also like to welcome our online participants joining us in the first hour of this session. Please feel free to use the chat function throughout and share your questions, if any. About MCIS first, founded in the late 80s and incorporated in the early 90s, MCIS Language Solutions has grown into a leading non-profit social enterprise in Toronto, dedicated to equitable access to critical information and services in languages people speak or sign. Our enduring mission crystallized into our 2022 social purpose statement, which is to uphold the human right to be informed, heard, and understood. For the past 5 years, we championed language advocacy initiatives across diverse linguistic communities, from indigenous languages to ASL and LSQ, mostly through Language Access Coalition of Canada. And this commitment earned us some notable recognition, including recognition of Toronto's Language Advocacy Day on February 22nd this year. For the past decade, we marked the UN proclaimed International Day of Translation on each September 30th, and we organize community events like this one. One of MCI's core values, integrity, is embodied in the principle of nothing about us without us. We believe in being a conduit for human truth, and these are testimonies or stories and reflections expressed in people's own word and in their own language. We can think of asylum seekers in a court hearing. We can think of a patient in a hospital surgery room, a newcomer, or indigenous peoples reflecting on this National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. We believe that everyone's voice deserves to be represented. Our commitment to authenticity and accuracy of your story is the very heart of our work. So before we introduce you to our panel, we are going to share with you 2 short stories. The first one is by Toha Hente, Kanien'kehá:ka, a member of the Wolf clan Sharon Hovani family from Akwe Sasne. His familiar community is Kenteke, with ancestral roots Itei Onononteroken and Hafnawake, and in the homeland of the Mohawk River Valley. He is a member of Kanien'kehá:ka, Kanien'kehá:ka Kanonenses Longhouse community. He's married to Rebecca Ingram, and they have 14 years old daughter living as Kanien'kehá:ka and following Kainen Erakokova ways. The relationship with the natural world is intimate. They forage, grow much of their food, raise ducks and chickens, and work as family with communities across Turtle Island and beyond. He's the majority partner in geolinguistics, an indigenous-owned business specializing in language recovery and revitalization. He supports the work of his wife as a tech and research assistant and manages websites owned by indigenous people. He's also a member of the Indigenous Activist Network and supporter of the Idle No More since its inception. His family lives on undeceded, unsurrendered Algonquin land that historically was shared on a seasonal basis with Kanenke Haka and prior to that, Laurentian Iroquois. So please help me to welcome Dr. Hampton. We have a message, in fact.
Sego Fuego, Tohonde Yonyans, Ganiga Habeni, no Wagata Ione, Chikandege, Tatna Augustosne, Nivage. I am Mohawk of the Wolf Clan from Hondege and Augustosne. My name is Toha Honde. I'm speaking to you from our traditional lands where my people have lived for thousands of years, sharing with the Algonquin people. Tikarato, where you are, is the traditional land of my people, the Roto Sione, or Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and Mississauga peoples. In our way, when we gather, we begin with Ohondo, Gariwadeko, words that come before all else. It is not a prayer we do not pray, nor do we have supreme beings. Creation is alive, and everything in creation carries responsibilities to each other. All things stand at the same height. There are no hierarchies. I will share a short version in English, though much is lost outside of our language. We give greetings and thanks to the people. Today we have gathered, and we see that the cycles of life continue. We've been given the responsibility to live in peace, balance, and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we begin to bring our minds together as one, as we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. We give greetings and thanks to the earth, the water, the plants, the animals, the wind, the sun, the moon, the stars. To all of creation that fulfills its responsibilities so we may live. Finally, we turn our thoughts to the thing that created us all and all of creation, the energy that provides all that we need to live a good life here in this world. Now our minds are one. I was asked to speak on International Translation Day, but first I must say that this plainly, my family does not take part in Canada's National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It is a token. It is ingenuous, hollow, and insulting. 13 calls to action out of 94 have been addressed in 10 years. Communities still live without safe water. Laws like Bill 5 and Bill C-5 continue the theft of our lands. Canada is working to erase us, to turn reserves into municipalities, to coerce assimilation. Genocide did not end. It continues today through legislation. Reconciliation is not a national holiday. It is not orange shirts or public relations. It is personal. Governments and corporations cannot reconcile. Only individuals can, by recognizing the privilege they inherit from colonialism and taking responsibility to make things right. Without truth, there is no reconciliation. And the truth is this: Canada has never stopped trying to eliminate us. That is is a distraction. It keeps attention on ceremony instead of action. Gandhi gave up. Our language holds all that we need to live as Gandhi Gahaga. Within our own world, there is no need for translation. The language itself is complete. Translation becomes necessary when we engage with those outside our communities, or when new learners take the first steps. In those spaces, the work of translators and linguists is invaluable, helping to open a bridge of understanding without diminishing the strength of our own language. There are some truths I want to place before you. Oppression is intersectional. The oppressed often become the oppressor. Equity requires us to see each other as standing at the same height. Conflict and peace coexist. They always have, they always will. In our language, we have no word for sorry. When harm is done, the responsibility is to restore balance. Our Rapisca Navragete, what outsiders call warriors, are those who carry the burden of peace. Their duty is to ensure balance returns. This is not a metaphor, it is our way. As translators and language workers, you too carry a burden of peace. You are the bridge for many of those displaced by war, poverty, or persecution. You give them voice in unfamiliar systems. You hear their stories. You know their struggles. This is the foundation of social purpose. Let me tell you a story. A woman of European ancestry devoted years of study to help indigenous communities reclaim what colonization tried to erase. She worked beside us with respect and reciprocity. Later, she learned of the people who lost their last speaker in 1963. For decades, they struggled to bring their language back. Academics came and went, like scientists peering into petri dishes, leaving nothing behind. The woman whose ancestors had colonized that same land understood that she had a responsibility. She worked with them for years, often unpaid, to writing grants, organizing, planning. Eventually, they secured funding. They built a recovery plan. They published a dictionary. This past summer, after almost 62 years of silence, the first conversation in that language took place between her and a young teenager at a summer camp. A language once declared dormant spoke again. That is reconciliation. That is hope. Social purpose businesses can hold real power, but only if it is rooted in truth. Tokenism and pacifism are not enough. Words without actions are nothing. Social purpose means risk. It means sacrifice. It means refusing to be agents of oppression. It means restoring balance. Gayanaragoa, the code or the practices that govern our lives as Gandhi Gahaga, teaches us that balance and peace come when all stand at the same height. Our responsibility is to raise up those who have been pushed down, not to diminish them, but to restore the natural order of things. This principle guides us to act so that no one remains beneath another, no one is left behind, and all can meet each other in equity, with respect, and with peace. Nyalago for allowing me to speak. I hope my words plant a seed, Perhaps light your personal path towards responsibility, reconciliation, and helping others. True change begins when each of us accepts the burden of peace.
Thank you. And thank you to Mahanta. He's watching probably this from his community. So we just have one more quick announcement. As language and food have deep visceral connection, I also want to welcome Gurbeen Basin, who is the founder and executive director of our catering service, Anjin. Gurbeen established Anjin in 2000, following the footsteps of her ancestors, and always welcomed and supported community members facing challenges. The purpose of Anjin is to foster personal empowerment and nurture communities. She will share a little bit, if she is here, hi, about food offerings we're enjoying today. Please.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, how are you? Thank you for coming today and also spending some time being mindful of the land that we are on, the First Peoples that have, been impacted mostly in a very difficult way. I spent a lot of time with my team today talking about the impacts of colonialism and capitalism, and one of those moments was when I was younger and in graduate school, and I decided it's time to create systems that actually give back to people and support people in a very real way. So I'm a recovering policymaker and also a pretty deep thinker, I think, around systems change. So 25 years ago, actually, I started Ungen, and Ungen is very much focused on helping communities in real time. So we focus on food services, so please enjoy the food. You will notice it's all plant-based, it's super sustainable. Please give a round of applause to Tanya. She's amazing and leads the catering team so beautifully, and I'm so happy to work with her all the time. And I also just want to say we provide cleaning services because people need jobs, and many organizations need cleaners. And so guess what? We thought that was a perfect pairing around, how to help people break the cycle of poverty while they're supported. So we focus on wraparound supports for people. Like I literally ran out to grab a call for housing. These are the things that we do all day long. But really the key is we're not grant-based. And that's not a problem, it's actually a win. And to me, did I just get really loud? Oh my gosh. I'm so scared myself there. I was like, what? But the reality is we can't respond to community needs and people's needs in real time when we're waiting for, the heavens to open and give us some money. So no thank you. We will look for paying clients and contracts that actually create sustainable employment and sustainable food and sustainable systems. So please grab a card, show us your love. If you're ever looking for people to support your organization in any which way, through cleaning or catering services. And I'm here to also just give a shout out to our work in dehydration, because maybe people don't know, during COVID, we pivoted towards making dehydrated meals because people are isolated at home. And I was like, oh my God, how are we gonna reach everybody that we can reach? So when you check out the website, we just launched in the market. So on November 1st, we'll show us your love in that way too. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for giving me a moment. Big shout out to MCIS and MCIS, because they're repeat clients and we love you. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, I'm going to stay next to you. Tessa, my dear friend, I could say, and guiding light on our long journey of discovering and embedding your social purpose. Tessa Public Where is your bio, Tessa? Second page. Okay, so Tessa's background spans environmental justice, public relations, and animal rights advocacy. As a collaborator at Purpose Pathways, Tessa empowers businesses and leaders to integrate purpose-driven strategies into their organizational framework, drawing from her extensive expertise and pragmatic methodology. As a member of the leadership team at the Canadian Purpose Economy Project, she contributes to expanding Canada's social purpose economy. And finally, through Purpose Connections, which she co-founded, Tessa facilitates quarterly virtual gathering that unite purpose-driven leaders and practitioners, fostering innovation and collaboration. One thing you don't know about Tessa, and it's very important to know, that her commitment to environmental protection is demonstrated through her successful leadership of the campaign to ban ivory trade in Canada.
Wow, thank you. Thanks everyone. Thank you, Eliana, Lata, and MCIS Language Solutions for hosting this discussion today. Thanks to all of you for coming. Thanks to everyone online for joining us. Thank you, Gurbeen, for bringing us together around your beautiful food and doing the hard work of having a circular business that takes care of people and planet. You're doing exactly what we're going to be talking about here today. And thank you also to Toa Hente. I loved his words. Translation is more than carrying words between languages. It is carrying meaning across worldviews. It's really what essentially we as human beings are all what we need to do all the time. I'm really thrilled to be here in Toronto. I'm going to point somewhere and I'm going to say I grew up in Port Credit, which is like somewhere here, there, or there. And I grew up with my brothers and sisters at the time when the Credit River still froze over, and we skated, and I swam in Lake Ontario, and I learned to sail there. And I also lived in an apartment with my mom on the Lakeshore Road, where a long time ago, when I was a young girl, I watched Terry Fox run by my house. And that ended up being, it's like a real through line in my life, because it was the first time that I saw someone doing this impossible thing, and with his buddy, his brother, and his friend. And I was like, holy cow, like literally, what? That is unbelievable. And I just had this sense of excitement, or this feeling that he was just reaching for this North Star, this guiding light, which we often talk about in the purpose verse. And you know, from that time, I carried that with me when I moved to Vancouver, and it shaped my work and my life and my connections, and it's what really brings me, you know, back here today to continue that journey. I have to switch pages. So I'm honored to come full circle here in Toronto to host this conversation at this inflection point in time where the collision of crises can seem overwhelming from a system that we built but is failing us. But I don't like to dwell on that, because when you want to change the world, you cannot be thinking too much about that. You have to continually be thinking of that North Star and about how we can build as human beings, as a community, as business leaders, as leaders of not-for-profits and social enterprises, as human beings, where the well-being of people and planet are the center of all the decisions that we make. A world that Toa Hente spoke of, you know, Indigenous stewardship has taken care of this land and people for millennia. So we are very accustomed to government NGOs coming to a table to solve the problems created by our economic system, which is a take-make waste system that measures success through profit. But I'm just going to ask all of you here to imagine if business rethought its role in society, that it doesn't sit on top of this system, But if we measured success by more than just profit, what if we considered ourselves in these business, such as Amgen, as an essential part of the fabric of society, one where, we use all of our resources, influence, and our enterprise capability to solve a social or environmental problem that they are uniquely able to solve and still drive competitive advantage, because at the end of the day, failed businesses also fail communities. So I'm just going to give you a quick example, because I feel like there needs to be a little context setting. There's a printing company, we in the purpose world know Hemlock Printers, family-owned business. It's at least getting to 60 years old now. Started in Burnaby, BC, now operates nationally and in the US market. And they have won awards over and over and over and over again for sustainability. So what they are doing to mitigate the harms that they create in the day-to-day of doing business. But Richard, on his 50th anniversary, wanted to lean into purpose because he thought that there was more. And he's right. So he dug into his stakeholders. He reached back into why his father started the company, and he came up with a social purpose, which is a little too long, but so I'm just going to read part of it, but I think you'll get the gist, which is that they exist to inspire actions that safeguard the health of the world's forests. So their social purpose lands squarely on the issue of deforestation and on old growth forests. Can you imagine that if you use this social purpose that drives your business strategy and drives the day-to-day decisions within your business, how this is going to change how they talk about what they do, how they collaborate, and how they communicate, and the kinds of partnerships that they might be able to build. So imagine if through collaboration and innovation, this printer was able to influence everything, its customers, its supply chain, and its sector. So this is a world where you can start to imagine, right? Business leaders solving the world's problem profitably. One person, one business, all of its stakeholders driving transformational change for a better world. Imagine if this, through this North Star, this values-aligned strategy, helps social enterprises gain clarity on their vision and mission. That social purpose is a guiding organizational strategy could be leveraged to drive clarity and innovation, all in the service of building stronger, more resilient, and sustainable organizations. So I think the desire to change the world, in fact, the people who do change the world, is led by those who really essentially question who they are and what they're doing and why they're doing it, and in the desire to do better. But I think at heart, really, they are empaths. They are empathetic because it's not just about them, it is about others. They're the doers, and in fact, I would say the visionaries who are carving a path forward to leveraging themselves and organizations to create value, setting a beautiful North Star to competitively navigate our chaotic world and build value for people and planet. They understand their North Star clearly and really inspire others to join in that. That's who we have in this room with us today. And that's what's exciting, right? Because there are people doing this and there are these paths being put forward. So it's my honor and my pleasure to introduce Lata Sukumar, our host for today, as Executive Director of MCIS Language Solutions. Lata really was an early adopter. She just swam off that dock and said, let's do this. And from the early days, and has really been a leader in deeply embedding purpose in its governance structure and its organization for the last 4 years. I was going to read all her awards off, but there are too many, so I'm just going to send you to LinkedIn to see what all of the kinds of recognitions that she's received. So Lata, please come and join us up here. Thank you, Lata. Mike, you're next. So Mike McIsaac is the CEO of Baker Tilly Capital. He leads the National Corporate Finance Service line for Baker Tilly Canada, the 8th largest professional accounting firm in Canada and globally. He has consistently demonstrated elite capability in managing complex organizations, guiding guiding high-stakes decisions-making and leading teams at scale. He's curious and exacting, especially when it comes to evaluating company strategies or market positioning. He's been recognized for his work as a visionary for implementing and embedding social purpose into how he does business and his personal and business commitment to be a force for good. So Mike, please join us up here. Last but not least, you're wondering what I'm going to say, aren't you? Liz Macbeth is the CEO of Armor Valve, a leader of a second-generation family business. She is the definition of a purpose-driven leader and is very committed to advancing sustainable infrastructure and creating positive outcomes for people, planet, and prosperity. As president of Armor Valve, she leads strategic initiatives to grow and strengthen Armor Valve's business with a long-term values-based lens. She is tenacious and determined to prove the business case for purpose and really is leading the way in so many ways as the other panelists are today. So come on up and join us, Liz. I have to grab my water, so I'm just going to come up here for a second. Should we move this?
Yeah.
There is no hiding, right? Okay, so thank you so much, all of you, for joining us here today. So the first question really is, and this is for you, Lata, why purpose and why now? And how did you arrive at that? Really, tell us a little bit about yourself, your organization, and what is the story behind what leads you here?
So it's a long story. I myself came from a background in law, and I also studied, did my master's in women's studies, and was interested in issues around war and domestic violence. And it felt like MCIS found me because this was an organization that was providing interpretation and interpretation services for victims of domestic violence, funded by the government. And I joined it as its executive director with one other staff person, actually 1.5. And basically we saw the potential of translation and interpretation services being sold and earning revenue from that so we can sustain long term, but also bring our services to a much wider population. It is a nonprofit, and today, fast forward, we are all across Canada. We provide services in the broader public sector to over 800 organizations, maybe 1,000 now, and we provide services in over 300 languages with thousands of language professionals all over. The reason I did this is because I didn't want to do a full-time practice in law. It didn't make sense to me. I wanted to do grassroots work, and I wanted to make a difference.
Thank you, Lata. Mike?
Okay. I mean, first, I don't think I can skip past that first video without saying something about truth and reconciliation. It's really, I don't think I've unpacked the words, but I would say that it's really great to hear a perspective like that. When maybe everybody struggles with the words truth and reconciliation, it might mean something different to everybody. And you know, I loved hearing that and open to learning more about this community and the words. So great day for that. My background, yeah, I'm maybe the oddball in the room, maybe the only one in a suit. Sorry about that. I think, you know, social purpose found me in a little different way as well. I'd say I was probably struggling with core values of my personal core values and business core values, and they didn't mix together in my world. There was the Social Purpose Institute came along and reached out to us in 2019 through somebody else and asked if we would be in one of their incubators. And I thought, wow, we're a financial firm, and you want us to be in social purpose. And they also said that, yeah, we want you to come in and participate in this. And so we went through a 2-year journey through our organization, and it was great. It really was an eye-opener around the opportunity where my own personal core values could have the same meanings from a business perspective, where there was alignment between what I do personally and what I do in business, and that there could be this really meaningful connection around it. And it doesn't, like, we said things like, well, we want to be, bold integrity, and we want to be the best professionals. Well, I mean, they were legitimately table stakes for anybody that was in accounting or my profession. And then we said things like our mission was to be the best accounting firm in Western Canada, or the best in Canada. And it just didn't connect, right? There was nothing really in the soul that was ever going to connect with something like that. And so what the Social Purpose Institute helped us was really pull out that purpose of the organization doesn't have to necessarily be that you're great at adding numbers or on a calculator or filing a tax return. It can be something much bigger than that and connected to something that you do in your whole life. And so that was a great journey for us. Right around then, I merged my business into Baker Tilly, which was a much bigger business. And so now I'm, for the last 5 years, I've been working as, like a social agent of change within a big organization, and trying to, I'm the CEO of my business, which isn't the mothership of Baker Tilly in Canada. And so, I use my influence to help push our social purpose into an awareness of the other offices and firms across Canada, and help them find their own connection to social purpose within their business.
Over to you.
Is this on? Okay, I think it's on now. Can you repeat the question? I was so interested in hearing more
Okay.
stories.
Well, really just introduce yourself and your business, and really why? Like, what brought you to this program?
So I'm the second generation in our family business. We're celebrating 54 years of continuous family ownership. And I guess the through line here is that all of us found purpose through the Social Purpose Institute, because we're all graduates of that amazing program. But I was having difficulty connecting with the business emotionally. I definitely connect with the family emotionally, but I had grown up very interested in things like CSR and environmental protection, and the business is an industrial valve distribution company. So a lot of our clients, while necessary, aren't doing all they can to make the world and the planet especially a better place for future generations. So I guess in discovering our purpose, what happened for me is I was able to engage emotionally with the business. I was able to really go back to the roots of why it was started in the first place, and then build off of that something that connected to my values personally as this next generation. It is a successful thing to have been in business for 54 years. There aren't too many new businesses that are enduring for that long, and I think the family ownership model is a very positive thing. But in order to continue it, my next generation, who's quite young right now, needs to be able to find his connection to what we do. And so our purpose is to transform infrastructure for a healthy, thriving planet, recognizing that we need industry, but we need them to do better.
I skipped the part about purpose, and I just wanted to say something about that. So when COVID happened, we were an organization that was going from one RFP to another and just bidding on contracts. And we really were not just, we realized that we were more than a sum total of what services we delivered, and that we had to find our why. But we were scrambling, and then COVID happened, and we realized that a lot of people lived in isolation. They were not able to access food banks. They were not able to, reach out and get services, just because they couldn't communicate over the phone. So we then offered free services, and we realized that we do something really important here. And that's when we enrolled in your program, Serendipity. And I just want to give a shout out to Veronica, who's here, who was a very important part of that program as well. She's no longer at MCIS, but she contributed. And I just want to say, Tessa, that your introduction was so inspiring just now. And I know now why we really fell into the program and why it was so important for us to do the implementers program as well. And I also want to, as Mike did, acknowledge today and how it really ties in with our purpose, which is, you know, all of those children from the residential schools who disappeared, who went missing, who's, you know, are survivors and their families and communities. I think we need learning, we need empathy, and we also need reconciliation to advance towards that. And our purpose, which is to uphold the human right to be informed, heard, and understood, is about that. It's about listening and hearing and advancing and healing in that process. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. That is going to bring us to the next question, which is, you know, the first step to being a social purpose organization or leader is to decide to do that and what that connection is. But the next one is a bit more of a technical step, which is you have to uncover what your purpose is, and that builds the foundation of that organization. So I would just love to hear from you, you know, a little bit of the work that you did around uncovering that, when you knew it was the right moment that you landed on it, and how you think it's changed how you show up at work. So I'm going to look at you, Mike. Elizabeth's looking at me like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know the Social Purpose Institute program, I believe it was 2 years. Sounds about right. And it's quite the educational journey to start with. And so, you know, we weren't a big organization at the time. I think we had 10 or 12 people. But still, we needed to bring in enough of our team so that, because it's really, you know, at the end of the day, it's about your people. It's about the employees and making sure that whatever we land on resonates with them. Otherwise, it just wouldn't be authentic. So yeah, I think the journey was really educational, unpacking the difference between ESG and social purpose. You know, it's only been 5 years, but I would say didn't know, and that's okay. You know, this is about education and learning. So I'd say still, you know, Coral Sandberg would probably still wrap, you know, the knuckles about the difference, or, you know, of me trying to explain it, you know, like the way she does. But Coral was, you know, instrumental in talking to us about our purpose and mission statement. It took us quite a while to land on something that every word really had some special purpose in there. And she wouldn't let us get away with faking it or coming up short on what that was. So we're back and forth a lot. You know, you're talking about a business and trying to say that we exist. I think that was a struggle for me, like to say that my business exists for something as a purpose rather than as a service. And so, you know, but aligning it. And so you don't know much about my business, but I help people buy, sell, and invest in other businesses. And so it's a transformative point when we're working with a group, and either you buy a business or you invest into one or you sell one, which really to me is probably the biggest transformation. Where you know, a family, can you imagine if you've owned a business in the family for 54 years and it's sold. And sold could mean that it transitions to somebody else within the family or to a third party. And so there's a lot of emotion around that. But so the point where we work with people is around that transformation. We exist to help unlock the societal and economic value of business in transition. So maybe it doesn't sound like much, but really the point where that we get involved, you know, and what's meaningful to us is the education around what is social purpose for these businesses that probably have never thought about it. You know, everybody has a website, but they don't have a social purpose. Some people have core values, but it's not tied to their mission. And so our critical path that we landed on was around, that's what we're going to help other business owners unpack themselves. So our social purpose became helping them achieve theirs, document and unpack. So.
That's great, thank you. Oops. Is this on? Yeah. Okay, Liz, thank you.
Had a feeling. So the SPI program, I can't speak highly enough about it because it was facilitated, but it was also very peer-based, and I learned just as much from the people in my cohort and the purpose journey they were going through as I did from my own, and it really helped solidify things. And discovering the purpose and landing on the right words in the right order was, it was challenging. And it was a collaborative process that involved a lot of our stakeholders. We were guided by Tessa and the team at SPI. Also external experts were brought in to be a bit of a sounding board and push back and challenge us on whether our purpose really was authentic. So all of that was very important to finding our purpose. And I mean, it was the hardest sentence I've ever come up with, but it wasn't really up to me alone. And that's a really important part of this, to make it collaborative so that it rings true to all of the different groups that are going to be exposed to your purpose. I didn't really know that it was right until we started using it, and until I saw people in our company using it to guide decisions, to guide actions. And at that point, it really took off in the company, and it's grown to mean a lot to our team.
Yeah, I mean, I think uncovering, we'll get to you, Lata, but you know, uncovering your social purpose is really, it is not about sitting in a room and with your marketing team or with the executive team. There is an extensive stakeholder engagement around what that looks like, and really digging into why you started a company or the company's history. So often there's the research piece, and really consulting your internal, and Liz is talking about some of the external stakeholders. And I think, you know, building on that authenticity is a key part of it, because, you know, you can be smoked out really easily if it is not authentic. And so your stakeholders, it has to resonate with them, and it has to be very related to what you do as a company. And so, you know, Mike, I appreciate what you're saying about that. Like how does it, you know, how do you really ground that in the actual work that you are doing, and how can that really drive your purpose, and what does that look like, right? So they've done a lot of hard work around this, so that's, I appreciate that. And Lata, I'd love to hear your story.
In our case, we did all of those things. Like, we had the focus groups and we talked to different kinds of people. And we realized that as a language organization, and especially in a multilingual, multicultural country like Canada, one of the things that we were facing is involuntary migration, and lots of people coming from very hard situations overseas who had to get access to critical information and services, situations of, you know, social crises, basically. And then we had COVID and a lot of misinformation that was going around through WhatsApp groups and the like in people's languages. And we needed to get them the right information so they did the right things. You know, language became so important to people's existence, and we realized that it had to be recognized as a human right. And so all of those things kind of motivated us to come up with our purpose. And we're really very happy with you know, what we came up with, because it really ties together everything that we did and for whom we do it. And I think our staff has really mobilized around our why, because it makes sense every step of the way. Yeah.
You can look on the internet, but there's a great video that MCIS has done on how they got their social purpose, and it's very sort of well crafted and put together. So, you know, Mike, this is probably like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. You know that white paper that you did, and so 4 years ago in the purpose verse feels like a long time ago. I'd just love to know what was, you know, like you wanted to publish the business case and what that looked like. And I just would love to hear from you why that was important, why you did that, and
Social Purpose Institute definitely pushed us to do something like that. If you think, you know, was it only four, I think it's 4 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot of reference material out there for us to look at. And I don't think ChatGPT existed really yet. So it was definitely a collaboration piece with I'd say probably 4 or 5 of our team members, and it's a good journey. Like, I mean, we talked about, you know, one of our specialties is valuing businesses, and so, you know, valuing your social purpose values in the context of a business. I found it intriguing, and so it was a good journey of, I think, a good initial, you know, thesis around, you know, I gotta be careful here because you don't want to only do social purpose because of money, right? And I think that there's, you know, you could call me out pretty quick if that's what it was. And so it had to be written in a way that it was more along the lines of just recognizing that there are benefits to having, you know, your social purpose integrated into your business properly, and that, you know, those benefits could be recognized in terms of dollars and cents as well. But I know that that's a tricky conversation. So, you know, I looked at it again yesterday. We had version 2 that we put out maybe a year or so ago, and I was looking at it again yesterday and thinking just how much further the thoughts out there. There's just so much more out there about it. I think I really probably need to revisit again and do a 3rd version of it and just say where we're at now, especially with ways of, I think the struggle around, the real struggle that we have coming from a financial background was the metrics around it and how do you measure it. And ESG, there's easier ways to measure ESG, especially if you're thinking, you know, environmental, you know, carbon input. I think there's ways of valuing that and measuring that now, but most of the other stuff around social purpose is quite hard to measure. You know, how do you measure doing good? You know, it's not easy, and so, but there are ways to measure that within. And I think that as we've come along in the last 3 or 4 years, there's definitely been stronger emphasis on trying to help businesses measure that and track it within the organization. And just measuring it and tracking it, to me, anyways, it shows the value. Like we meet monthly. Our entire team meets once a month, and we track something as a group, and it's quite impactful when we talk about what we call core value sightings. And so our core values are very tied to our purpose. And so when you ask somebody on, you know, your team just freely, like I'm not telling you to, it's just they know that every month we do this, and every month it surprises me how somebody else comes up to say something about somebody else that they've noticed that they're doing in line with a core value. There's no financial benefit to that, but it's really like, I think the employees really like it. We have a very high retention rate on our team, except for the young co-ops, they're doing really good. But, you know, for the people that are professionals, I think that they've really come to like it, or we're just aligning around our core values and our purpose. So.
But there is a monetary value to keeping people in a sense, right? That attraction strategy, I think.
There is, but we don't really measure. I don't know many businesses that really measure that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just wondering, Lata, you know, a social enterprise exists to be a force for good, and yet still that pivot to purpose. So was that a business decision, a strategy decision, a differentiator, an organizational principle?
All of those things.
Yeah.
I think all of those things. but I was actually thinking about it a lot in terms of what are the benefits, and I'm just going to refer to my notes. First of all, it gave us clarity of mission and also product market fit, because you realized who you wanted to serve, right? You could have a go, no-go decision around using a decision lens based on language rights, based on social justice, based on tech use, whatever criteria you wanted to use, but mostly related to impact, right? Because you only have so many resources and how many hours in a day, and so you want to put it where it matters the most. So that's one thing. The other thing that I was thinking is it improved our recruitment and culture, so it brought in the people that we wanted to work there and also helped us retain them because they were there for the purpose. The other point that I thought was it kind of ferreted out new partnerships. So our purpose brought us allies, like we found partners out there. The other very important thing that purpose does is that it unlocks creativity and innovation, because when you have the constraint of purpose in an organization which is earning revenue, you're always thinking, okay, I cannot earn revenue under these circumstances. I have to do it in such a way that I'm also making an impact. So it makes you more creative. And financially sustainable, because it helps you come up with ideas for revenue generation. And again, there you're thinking really hard about how can I earn revenue to make a greater impact, right? And last but not least, it helped us sort of bring about decentralized decision making. So we brought about some changes within our staff teams. We raised the living wage. We also said decision making should be decentralized, so more ideas from more people, which is great. And then our governance structure, we looked at it and we said, how can we be much more, equitable and also much more accountable for our purpose and impact that we're making. And last but not least, differentiator, as well as resilience. It really builds your resilience. So these are some of the benefits that I think that come out of social purpose organizations.
Well, I think that's really interesting, because what I hear is just a strategy and a business strategy based on values that drives that kind of differentiation that I think everyone looks for, right? Liz, I'd like to toss that one over to you. There's always that tension between running a family business and doing that work, which is really very intentional work over time. And we all know that sometimes that can just fall by the wayside when things get kind of crazy in the world, which is almost all the time. So what is that stick-to-itness, and what is the tension between running your business and embedding purpose and leading?
So, as a small business, we don't have unlimited resources, including time, so it's really important to prioritize. And in our case, our customers are really large, major corporations, so we don't have a lot of power in those relationships. So what we decided to do was really transform ourselves from the inside out and become as close to being a model for a purpose-driven organization as we could be, so that we could serve as an example and influence that way. But also, to Lata's point, your collaborators kind of start to find you. So our purpose is now fully embedded in our business strategy. We have our near-term goals defined, and we're starting to work on the long-term picture that relates back to our theory of change, where by 2040 we want to be a regenerative business, or at least net zero. But it'd be great by 2040 to actually be creating more positive impact than the opposite. And one thing that I think really helped us kind of clarify that long-term planning was the purpose disclosure from the Canadian Purpose Economy project. So much like in ESG, if people are familiar with that, there are disclosure guidelines, and CPEP put together a disclosure guideline for purpose that really helped me decide what to measure and what to focus on, and what was realistic for a small business like ours to achieve. Because as much as our long-term goal is kind of lofty, and yes, we would like to explore sectoral change, we also recognize.
I like to dream big.
Yeah, we also recognize, that we're a very tiny business trying to have a very big impact.
If you go to Liz's website, you'll find her purpose disclosures on there. And they're fantastic. So, and Lata, I'd like to just talk to you a little bit. I think you've really embedded purpose in your governance structure, and that is sort of one of the key elements of an authentic purpose, is that it is governed at the highest levels. Do you just want to talk a little bit about?
So very quickly, Eliana is the expert here, and Nancy, who's from our board, who's been actually spearheading the process, is here as well. So thank you, Nancy, for all your leadership. And basically, there is an ISO standard, 37,000, which is for social purpose organizations. So we're trying to adopt that standard. And so pursuant to that, we have 4 pillars, which is accountability, oversight, value generation, and strategy. And so we're creating policies around that and making sure that we're socializing our board and our senior management team and even our staff team on how we govern. So I think that's a vital part of the governance piece. Yeah.
So as you're doing this work, there's opportunities, and obviously there are barriers and there are hard things. So what are some of the hard things that you encounter that you're just like, what does that look like for you, Mike?
Oh, I was hoping that you were going to answer that one. Yeah, there's definitely, I feel like we're so inferior to where you're at here now, but I've listened to that. But trailblazing in the financial world, there's definitely challenges in the day-to-day business. We're trying to run a business and be successful, and I think at times it tests you whether you're going to stay the course. There's definitely been some challenges in the past 5 years, and obviously COVID, and more recently the tariff wars that had a large impact on many businesses. And I think in those times of crisis, it's hard to stay your course with purpose. But we have. I think that we've been fortunate in that sense, just following our staying on our process around talking and embed what we've already embedded into our business around core values and our mission. We don't lose that every week just because we're having bad weeks because of Donald Trump. We stick our business, our business stays the same, and I don't think that that's an easy thing to do in a world where we still have to survive and make enough money to make payroll. I've definitely had those months where it's like, wow, are we going to make payroll this month? And you think, what do I have to do differently, or am I going to take something on that doesn't really resonate with me? And I thought I've got to this point in my life. I'm 55, and I can work with the people that I want to work with. I don't have to take on engagements that are outside of my comfort zone for my personal values. Okay, well, there's still challenges to that day to day. We're not perfect, but I can tell you that we hold to our core values, and we say no to those engagements as a group, which we make those decisions as a team. Every level of staff coming into those decisions to decide, are we going to go forward and take on this engagement, or are we not? And if we say no, then it's like, well, now it's a group response to what are we going to do differently to carry on and do something that's within our values.
Liz?
So, many challenges. I'll just name a few. Well, first of all, we knew that we needed to transition our business towards cleaner decarbonization processes, but it was never going to be practical to do that all at once. So we've been very patient with ourselves that way and exceeded some of our targets already. So that was a challenge in that there just isn't enough business in the space that we want to participate in eventually to really sustain ourselves. So it's a transition. By the end of next year, I think our goal is 50% of revenues coming from cleaner, circular, and low carbon or no carbon processes, which is a pretty big shift for a company that's typically been in the fossil space. The other challenge kind of surprised me, but it was our salespeople who really were not comfortable bringing the message to their clients because they didn't know how. They know how to talk about their product, they know how to build relationships with clients, but this was like a deeper conversation that could be had about purpose, and it wasn't technical, it was more, it was human and values-based, and they were not prepared at the beginning to do that. I think we're making headway there. One of our purpose metrics is engagement with our purpose. And I don't remember the numbers fully, but let's just say not everybody initially was engaged. And now we're at 63%. So that's a pretty big jump because our purpose was formed at the same time. We were in the same cohort, so 2022. I think that's a pretty good sign that the purpose is being embraced by people, even our salespeople.
It was like learning a new language, right? And it's learning to talk business in a different way, I think. So that is a process over time piece and that cultural shift. Lata, I'd love to hear from you what some of your challenges have been.
So our primary, I think, like everybody else, it's mission drift, and we are a nonprofit, so we had an additional challenge now that we didn't earn too much revenue and we didn't focus too much on earning revenue and keeping ourselves, because we can't get outside investment, right? We have to be bootstrapped and earn our own revenue. So you're constantly trying to keep yourself afloat, and then you have a purpose also to straddle. So there's the risk of mission drift, which we have to guard against. The second thing is, as you become operationally more and more complex, your culture becomes diluted. And so then you have to have rituals. You have to make sure that, we have Tanya here who does pause and connect sessions. We had a consultant who came and helped us with appreciative inquiry and basically taught all of our staff team to engage in a process of appreciative inquiry. So, and then you have to have town halls and newsletters and other such practices that kept reminding people because you've got too complex. The third thing is, in our business, AI is hugely disrupting, and we have to ensure that we keep the human in AI, right? And so all of our services, we could easily go and start reselling AI platforms, but we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that our interpreters and translators are engaged. And last but not least, I think it's the whole idea of measuring. I think measuring is always a challenge. So what we have done is we've pegged our metrics to the UN sustainability goals, and we've aligned about 3 of them, 3, 10, and 14, I think. So we've tied it to them, and we are part of the UN Social Compact, and we publish a report, which is a requirement for them to be a member. So we do that. So those are some of the key challenges that we face. And the other thing is, of course, getting your staff online. I think what we do is tie performance metrics to both our financial as well as our purpose goals. So.
Yeah, there's that whole internal infrastructure piece that has to be operationalized, and communications is a big part of that as well, right? So I think we're coming to the end of our time. I'd just love to hear from each of you, just one takeaway for the people online and for the people who have joined us here today. Why are you in this game? How, and just thoughts about, just thoughts.
Can I start?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's important to have big goals and to want to see big changes happen. But when you're discovering or implementing your purpose, it's important to take small steps because it is a lot of work. I mean, I'm doing our long-term planning out to 2040 at the moment because that's where our theory of change wants us to be. It's our net zero target as well. But there's going to be, a million tiny steps between now and then, and hopefully I won't be working at that point. So the kind of change that we all want to see in the world is complex. It involves many organizations working together, and you've got to identify, my big takeaway from the work that we've done, identify what you can truly achieve on your own, and then find ways to collaborate with others to achieve some of the bigger goals.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd say lots of things actually. If you're starting out on this journey of change, of implementing social purpose, it's a continuous process. What is it? Continuous and never-ending improvement is sort of what I would say. It's one of our core values tied back to curiosity. There's challenges, there's ups and downs, there's steps forwards and steps back. So it's you got to commit to that. It's going to be like any other implement any other business strategy or process. There's challenges that come along with it. And I'd say really, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'7". I play basketball. I'd say don't be afraid. Like even as a big man, like I was afraid of going out there and saying, these are my social. This is my social purpose. These are my core values. And of what I was afraid of what other people were going or how they were going to judge me on it. I don't care. Like this is me, right? So if you don't like me, then that's fine. We don't have to do business together. And there's people that come into our organization as well that may not like it either. They might think that it's too soft, or I don't want to get into that. Okay, that's fine too. We run our business around that, and I'm not afraid that if somebody doesn't have the same core values, don't share them with me, then we don't have to work together. So
I love that idea of that big, bold North Star and the incremental steps that you have to build, in order to be able to achieve that, right?
I think it's intellectually challenging. I am happy to wake up every morning to think about the incremental changes that you can bring about. And also, I honestly think there's no other way to do business these days. Everybody is looking for purpose. Money can get you so far as long as your basic needs are met and your emotional needs are met, you want purpose. And there's no other way to do business other than be purpose-driven.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Eliana, I'm gonna open it up for questions. Do we have any questions? Oh, Gord.
I thought the conversation was great. The front end was all about the challenge to implement our own purpose, and then it sort of moved in, I think, to what does it take to measure purpose business? And so, I could ask you a question like, could you talk maybe about some decisions that you're making today as a purpose-based business that maybe 5 years ago you would have made different decisions? Could you make it real on tariffs and other things like that?
The purpose is informing who we sell to, who we buy from, how we position our products. We're looking to add to our portfolio more solutions that mitigate emissions, like specifically that have positive environmental impact. We're also learning a lot, and I do think of myself as a purpose learner, not a purpose leader, because we're learning all the time. But there's so much innovation in the industrial space that's happening right now. Direct air capture, carbon sequestration, like there are all these new processes, and in my view, they can't evolve quickly enough for us, because that's where we want to be focusing our energy. And one other thing is, I think all of us, towards the end of last year, had a bit of a shock to our systems, because we've been living in a little bit of a bubble, and this second administration and how things are being turned on their head daily made me really lean into our purpose harder. I mean, I had to reflect on it. You know, what are we going to do? What if the clients don't like us? What if Canada goes the same way? But your values don't change that dramatically just because of external circumstances. So I probably went off
No, that's good.
your
Great.
question, but yeah.
Does anyone else want to address that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll hit the tariffs one. I'm certainly not anti-American at all, but what a careful with my words. What a great opportunity for Canada to really come back and see the core values that distinguish our nation from another nation in such a great way. And so I really think that we've looked internal, because it did stop my business for a few months. But we immediately started talking internally across provinces, reconnecting with our network in Europe, and I just thought, wow, there's people out there that really love Canadians, and Canadians really love Canadians, so this is a great thing, really.
Sorry, if I can just add to that, it's really galvanized Canadians in a way that I think is positive, especially in our industry, to go and look for markets that are to the east and the west instead of to the south, and to not be so dependent. And the other thing that I think we need to do is keep our innovations in Canada and not be so quick to sell the value that we're generating here to American businesses.
Lata, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Just the thing about AI that I said that's disrupting our industry, we're very careful not to cannibalize what we're doing currently with humans, and blindly adopting and embracing AI. So that's one way in which we are bringing purpose to our conversations and to our decisions. Yeah. So that's one example, but there are many. And one of the things, for example, is we don't engage in price gouging. There's a lot of price compression in our industry, and so we don't bid if we have to go too low, because we won't be able to pay our contractors well. We'll have to lay off staff, do things that we don't want to do, right? And we want to pay people a decent wage and keep the standard of living of our people as well as we can keep them, and not compromise on that.
Does that answer your question, Gordon?
Great answer.
Any other questions? Hi, Allison.
So, Mike, you referenced a white paper. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I didn't get the context on it.
Yeah, we wrote a white paper on the value of your social values. I don't know, we just changed our website. I know it was on our website. I don't know if it's currently linked there, but if you reach out through here, I can repost it or send it along. It was just really about the, I think I explained it earlier, but trying to, don't do social purpose because there's economic values, but there's economic values to having your social purpose. It's
Yes, it's welcome.
the other way around.
I think I'm getting the signal from Eliana, so I just want to thank all of you for joining us here today. I see Brad Hoffman here, so Brad, did you want to come up and say a couple of words?
Sure.
Come on up, Brad. He's looking rather unwilling. I think I may have coerced him.
Maybe I'll sit down.
Yeah, have a seat.
Oh, I'm standing at the back the whole time. Okay, let's Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it. Giving me the opportunity to address this really small but I think very esteemed group. My name is Brad Altman. I'm the founder and CEO of Greater Purpose. And I've spent my entire professional career trying to advance social good in this country. And while I've had some success, I would say that I've definitely also had more than my fair share of failure. Like unmitigated catastrophic failure. I feel like I can lecture on the subject of failure sometimes. I believe we're really at an important point, especially when it comes to the role that business can play in changing the world and changing the world for the better. And of course, we talked about this, but if you read the news, good segue, if you read the news for longer than 5 minutes, we could all really use some positive vibes. And I think I'm here to provide you with them. And I want to share my gratitude for not only being allowed to attend this event with such really fabulous, like-minded people. I'm grateful for so many things. I have a gratitude list that I review daily. It's got 34 things on it. Some of them are pretty trite. Like this is one craft brewery that I'm really grateful for. And some of them are more existential, like the health of my family and my parents and children. And I'm the same vintage as you, Mike, but happy to say that my parents are still around. And I believe that gratitude is really the foundation of happiness, and happiness is so foundational to social good. And Greater Purpose is really about gratitude. So, what is Greater Purpose? I hope you're asking yourself that question. Quite simply, Greater Purpose is a community of businesses that are committed to leading with purpose. That is who we are. We want to change the world, and our members, both large and small, are businesses that are on the path to purpose. I think lose yourself short. When you say you're a purpose learner, you're definitely a purpose leader. We invite everybody in the room to hear what we are all about. And whenever I get a chance to address a like-minded group like this one, I always take the opportunity to share a shameless plug. Our Greater Purpose Conference is at the end of October, which is not yet this month, but next month. I hope all of you have the opportunity to attend our conference October 27th and 28th at the Carly, where there will be a room full of people like us and people not only from our sector, but from the charitable and nonprofit sector who are leading with purpose. But why? Like, why Greater Purpose? Why do we exist? And I guess that's our fundamental question. Why do we exist? What is our purpose? We exist because we feel like not that it's important to create standards and resources to support businesses. Our role is to really convene the community of purpose-driven businesses. Our purpose is simple. We've articulated it. Our purpose at Greater Purpose is to shape the next generation of business. No small feat, but we really feel like we can do it. And we exist to create a place where businesses and their leaders and their social impact professionals can come together and convene, create a platform for collaboration, learning, even in a marketplace. And I think it's important because, like any movement, and I truly do believe that we are creating a movement. Breaking bread, coming together, is really always at the core of movement building. So we have conferences, we have regional events, we have impact circles, we have awards which we're presenting at the conference next month. We're doing everything that we can to create and build and harness a community of purpose-led businesses to bolster the leaders of today and foster the leaders of tomorrow. And we want the movement to be founded on the principles of collaborative change. We want to have a lot of fun in the process. Greater Purpose is really all about fun. So as this movement takes place, we invite everybody in the room who's running and leading a purpose-driven business to come and be a part of our family and work together to shape the next generation of business.
Thank you, Brad. Just want to give our panelists and our guests today MCIS for you.
And with this, we are done with the official streaming part, so without discloses closed. Big thanks to our fantastic panelist facilitator, our team. Selena made it. Starting traffic. We have here Judy, she could make it. And John is, there is also Social Purpose Week in November, third week of November is Social Purpose in Business Week. So there will be a lot of stuff happening these 2 weeks, those 2 weeks, and then just try to connect as often as you can. Thank you for coming. Hope you're gonna stay for the second part that Selena will announce now, and if you have time, it will be interesting, more intimate, more direct. If you have a question, please do stay, and have a good night. Good night to all my audience. Good night.
Doesn't